had a free Saturday in Singapore, so I flew Singapore Airlines Business Class to Bangkok and back. In a single day, 2 flights, 2 completely different aircraft, and by the end, I knew which one I actually wanted to fly. The answer surprised me. Welcome to the channel. I'm Anthony, and with over 20 years of business class flying and more than 1 million miles in the air, I've seen just about everything at 35,000 feet.
Cabin crew doors to automatic cross-check.
Here at Doors to Automatic, I bring you in-depth, honest reviews of premium services from airlines around the globe. Love travel, aviation, or just chasing the thrill of the skies? Hit that subscribe button and come along for the ride. Singapore Airlines has been voted best airline in the world by Condé Nast Traveller readers 36 times. Business Traveller readers have made it best Asia Pacific airline for 34 consecutive years. The reputation is well earned. But not all Singapore Airlines business class is the same. On the same route, on the same day, you can find yourself in 2 completely different seats, on 2 completely different aircraft, with a noticeably different experience on each. That's exactly what happened to me. I was already in Singapore with a free Saturday, so I booked a return day trip to Bangkok in business class. Outbound on SQ722, an Airbus A350-900 in long-haul configuration. Return on SQ709, a Boeing 787-10. The fare was 1,884 Singaporean dollars, roughly £1,000 for the pair. The outbound was booked in Business Flexi, the return in Business Lite. Both came with a 40kg baggage allowance. 2 flights, 2 aircraft, same airline, same route, same day. And as I'd find out, quite a different experience depending on which one you're sitting in. Let's start at Changi. My trip started at Terminal 2 of Changi International Airport. There were lots of automated check-in terminals for economy passengers. However, proper check-in desks were provided for business class passengers. I was travelling with hand baggage only, so headed straight to immigration. Through the automated immigration gates, it was a short walk to the Singapore Airlines SilverKris lounge, which was available for business class passengers. This was a pretty standard airport lounge with lots of tables and chairs, and some armchairs. A buffet provided a range of hot Asian snacks. A good selection of drinks was also available. The lounge wasn't that busy and was a quiet sanctuary from the hustle and bustle of the main terminal. For a home airport lounge though, it was a bit underwhelming. After about 45 minutes, it was time to leave the lounge and head to the gate. This was gate E12, which was the furthest gate on one of the Terminal 2 piers. On the way, there was a range of duty-free shops. Security was cleared at the gate. There was no fast track for business class. The flight was on an Airbus A350-900 aircraft, registration 9 Victor Sierra Mike Alpha. It was 10 years old. I took a seat for a few minutes before boarding started. Business class passengers were first to board in Group 2. I assume Group 1 would have been for first class passengers and some elite frequent flyers, but there wasn't first class on this aircraft. Business class passengers boarded via a separate air bridge to the front door of the aircraft. Business class was in the front cabin and a half of the aircraft, with 42 seats in a 1-2-1 configuration. Each seat had direct aisle access. I was in the middle of the front cabin in window seat 14 Alpha. The seat was very wide at 28 inches. It flipped forward to form a 73-inch fully flat bed. The only odd thing was that the footstool was offset to one side. In front of the seat was a fixed 18-inch HD screen, next to which was a small storage compartment. Below the seat was a controller for the entertainment system and a storage compartment for the headphones. Higher up was a storage compartment alongside a power socket and USB-A ports. There was also a reading light. Soon a glass of champagne was offered. It was 2018 Piper Heissig Brew Vintage. Impressive. Juice and a Singaporean drink were also available. Overhead were more reading lights, but no individual air vents. Below the footstool was a storage area for a bag. Under the aisle side armrest were controls for the seat. And higher up in the wing of the seat were further reading lights. There were no central overhead bins, so the cabin felt more spacious. Steaming hot towels were provided. The crew member addressed me by name as they had when they offered champagne earlier, which was a very good service point. We pushed back from the gate 3 minutes ahead of schedule as the safety video was played. Interestingly, the briefing included keeping your shoes on for takeoff and landing, not something I've seen included on other videos. We taxied from the gate at Terminal 2 across the centre of the airfield to take off from runway 02 centre. We arrived at the runway at 11:03 AM and were airborne at 11:04 AM. If you're enjoying the review so far, there's another way you can support the channel. Over on Patreon, you can join the Doors to Automatic cabin crew. For the price of an airport coffee each month, members get early access to new reviews, behind-the-scenes updates, and the chance to help shape future trips and videos. There's a link in the description if you'd like to come on board. The flight time from Singapore to Bangkok was scheduled to be 2 hours and 20 minutes, but today we could expect a journey of just under 2 hours, flying up the east coast of the Malay Peninsula before crossing the Gulf of Thailand to land in Bangkok. Interestingly, according to Flight Radar 24, we would get to a barometric altitude of 43,000 feet, unusual for such a short journey. I checked out the entertainment system. Good quality noise-cancelling headphones were provided. You needed to use the controller as it was not a touchscreen. There was an extensive range of content on the system with 386 movies, 147 television series and 752 audio albums. In addition, 2 live television channels were available. Wi-Fi was also available, which was free for business class passengers, although video streaming was not allowed. It provided download speeds of about 35 megabits per second just after takeoff. This was pretty consistent throughout the flight. Soon the meal service began. The meal consisted of a fixed starter and dessert and a choice of 3 main courses: roasted chicken thigh, seafood fried noodles, or a Thai green curry with pork. However, on this flight there was also a book the cook option, where you could pre-order from an extensive list of dishes, including a menu of 4 Western dishes. I pre-ordered the slow braised beef cheek, which a crew member confirmed prior to takeoff. The table sprung up from beside the seat and folded down. It was pretty substantial. My meal was served all together on a tray. Metal cutlery and a linen napkin were provided. The starter was a citrus-scented crab salad with diced mango and marinated citrus dressing. My pre-ordered main course was the slow braised beef cheek in red wine jus with celeriac puree, crunchy fresh vegetables and slow braised potatoes. The beef was lovely and tender. Warm bread was offered, but I had already finished my main course by this point. The dessert was a mango cream cake. Accompanying the meal was a wine list of 2 white wines and 2 red wines, in addition to the Piper Heisig vintage champagne. Excluding the fizz, the average price per bottle was £16.25, about £5 per bottle less than Virgin Atlantic or BA Club World. Although I would stress this was a regional flight, so not a like-for-like comparison. Overall, it was a great meal, with the beef cheek being a particular highlight. A top-up of wine was offered as the meal tray was cleared. There were 3 toilets around the business class cabin, 1 at the front of the aircraft and 2 between the 2 cabins. They were a standard small aircraft size, but well maintained and not showing their age for a 10-year-old aircraft. A range of amenities from toothbrushes to razors were provided. Pay-at premium toiletries were also provided. Back in the cabin, I checked out the bedding. A soft blanket was provided. Reclined, the seat was fairly comfortable, although the offset footstool meant you were twisted to one side, which would have been uncomfortable for a longer flight. The seat was fairly open to the aisle. Soon we were preparing to land in Bangkok. We came into land on runway 19 and taxied to gate E4 at the main terminal. Soon we were disembarking and heading into the main terminal in Bangkok. Off the aircraft and I headed to flight connections. The transit area was nearby and very quickly I was through security and back airside. I headed to the SilverKris lounge, which was located near gate D8. The lounge was modern and of a similar but smaller design to the flagship Singapore lounge at Changi. There was a buffet of cold and hot food and cakes. There was also a bar in the centre of the lounge. I thought this lounge was actually better than the Changi lounge, which was odd considering Changi was the airline's base. I spent about an hour in the lounge, recharging cameras before heading back to the gate. It was the same gate to that at which my earlier flight had arrived, gate E4. The flight was on a Boeing 787-10 aircraft. Registration 9 Victor Sierra Charlie Oscar. It was 6 years old. Rope blinds had been prepared for the boarding process. Business class passengers were first to be called forward, and I was the first passenger to head down the airbridge. Only one airbridge was used this time, with all passengers boarding at the very front of the aircraft. At the aircraft door, I was greeted by a member of the cabin crew who escorted me to my seat. Business class was located in the front cabin of the aircraft, with 36 seats in a staggered 1-to-1 configuration. All seats had direct aisle access. I was towards the rear of the cabin in window seat 19 kilo. My seat was next to the window with a footstool under the entertainment screen in front. The seats in front and behind were next to the aisle. The seat had a width of 20 inches and could recline to form a 76-inch flatbed. On the wing to the window side of the seat were reading lights. On the other side was a counter with a storage compartment, inside which was a bottle of water and headphones for the entertainment system. There was a power socket and 2 USB-A ports. Below the counter were controls for the seat and for the entertainment system. The entertainment screen was fixed in front of the seat. It was an 18-inch high-definition touchscreen. Below the screen was a footstool, below which was a storage area for a bag. The gap between the counter and the seat in front was fairly tight at just 9 inches wide. A cushion and blanket were provided. There were plenty of overhead storage bins above both the window and middle seats. Overhead were reading lights, but again, no individual air vents. The aircraft was pretty hot prior to departure, and air vents would have been useful. Soon pre-departure drinks were offered, again vintage Piper Heisig champagne, juice or a Bellini. Then another pre-departure hot towel. Again, when the crew interacted with me, they addressed me by name. A video was played during the boarding which explained the features of the business class seat. The cabin was pretty busy as all the economy passengers had to walk through from the front boarding door. We pushed back from the gate on schedule as the safety video was played. We had a relatively short taxi from the terminal to take off from runway 20 left. We arrived at the runway at 3:44 p.m. and were airborne a minute later. Again, the scheduled flight time was 2 hours and 20 minutes, but we could expect an even quicker return journey of 1 hour and 50 minutes, routing over the Gulf of Thailand before skirting the east coast of Malaysia and then landing at Singapore. I checked out the entertainment system, which unlike the outbound flight had a touch screen. The same range of content was available and the same noise cancelling headphones. Complimentary Wi-Fi was again offered to business class passengers, although it wasn't available until after takeoff. The download speeds were slower on this aircraft at around 4.6 megabits per second. The table pulled out from under the entertainment screen and then flipped over. Quickly, the meal service was offered. There was no book the cook option on this flight, but main courses could still be ordered in advance from the standard menu. For the main course, there was a choice of pan-fried barramundi, wonton noodles with pork, or Thai-style green chicken. The meal was served on a tray with metal cutlery and a linen napkin. The fixed starter was a prawn Caesar salad. This time bread was served at the start of the meal. For main course, I pre-ordered the kai yang, Thai-style grilled chicken with fried pineapple rice and seasoned vegetables. The dessert was a sticky date pudding. The meal was accompanied by the same wine list as the outbound. Not quite the quality of long-haul carriers, but perfectly acceptable when compared to short-haul business class. Overall, I thought it was another good meal, considering the short length of the flight. One of the 787's neat touches was the button to dim the windows electronically, something you don't get on the A350. There were 2 toilets for business class, both at the front of the cabin. They were a standard small aircraft size, but in very good condition. Payot toiletries were provided. Combs, shaving sets and toothbrushes were available in a drawer. A baby changing table folded down from the wall. Back in the cabin, I checked out the bed arrangement. The armrests could be lowered to increase the width of the seat as a bed, if you could get them to stay down. A soft fleece blanket was provided. This seat was far more comfortable as a bed, with the footwell straight ahead of the seat. In no time at all, we were preparing to land in Singapore. We came into land on runway 02 left and taxied to a gate at Terminal 2. So after 2 flights, 2 aircraft and 1 very full day, what's the verdict? Service was consistently excellent on both sectors, name checking throughout, warm and attentive crew. Singapore Airlines' reputation is well earned, and it showed. On the hard product, the A350 is wider and more spacious, but the offset footstool means you're twisted to one side when reclined. Fine for 2 hours, problematic on a longer flight. The 787 seat is narrower and the gap to the window is tight, but the reclined position is simply more comfortable with the footwell straight ahead. Food goes to the A350, book the cook on the outbound versus a standard 3-item menu on the return. Both good, but not the same. Connectivity goes to the A350, 35 megabits per second versus 4.6. IFE goes to the 787. The touchscreen wins over the controller. And the lounges. Bangkok was better than Singapore. Make of that what you will. Overall winner, the A350, but the margin is smaller than you might expect. And the day trip? Worth every penny. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And please do subscribe for more.